Sorry for the delay. How's the stream looking? Everything look okay? Echoing. Shouldn't be echoing. I don't have the sound on. 10 out of 10. Alright, perfect. How was the meatloaf? Wasn't meatloaf. I had some orange chicken that I overcooked in the microwave. It was horrible. Perfect. This is my first time using a new app called Streamables OBS. Yeah, middle finger to Uber, right? So, let me ask you guys, how do you feel about Uber increasing the rates on passengers and not giving any of it to the drivers? You guys like that? No. You know, I am a little curious about something. Somebody, in fact, not just somebody, a couple people, only a couple people. I prefer colonoscopy. A couple people from Sarasota have gotten in touch with me and told me that they actually dropped the rates by something like 9% or something. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't had any confirmation, but two separate people told me they actually cut driver rates. I've had one person on YouTube that was bragging and said that Uber actually raised the rates. That I don't believe at all. For the driver. Some of you guys' comments is funny. So here's the thing. This isn't going to be a very long stream. I'm not going to sit here and spend a lot of time talking about this. And I've been giving it a lot of thought, like all day. Man, you guys are commenting like crazy right now. I'm going to delete something real quick. That view counter isn't doing any good over there. My AMI rates are increasing for Uber. Yeah, not the drivers, exactly. That's kind of what's going on here. A lot of places. TK, I don't know if Total Tech is on here. TK, if you're on here, if you could just comment or something. But TK from Total Tech, he's from New York City, and he told me that the same thing happened up there in New York City as well. So I don't know what all markets this is in, but it seems like it's definitely spreading. Yeah, of course people are pissed. And yes, Uber is taking things too far. After the whole issue with Travis Kalanick, right? You got rid of Travis. You gave us tipping. Now, I wasn't overly impressed with 180 days of change, but I was definitely impressed, especially with the tipping option. You know, the long trip notifications, returning lost item fees, things of that nature. I think it showed good initiative. It really did. So I came up with something just a little while ago. You know, I know there's been that hashtag delete Uber movement. That wasn't something I came up with, obviously. It was something passengers came up with because they were pissed. And I was trying to think of a good hashtag, and it occurred to me, hashtag paydriversfare. Paydrivers, F-A-R-E, not F-A-I-R. So I think that's a good hashtag to promote what this is all about, paydriversfare. Now, on the flip side, passengers, that got my attention. I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know, what are drivers going to do? Are drivers going to strike? Tried it, been done, never did any good. Striking's not really a good option. Passengers have more power than drivers do. So I thought, what if, there you go, Dark Road Run, hashtag paydriversfare. Exactly. You know, what if drivers and passengers teamed up together and kind of combined a delete Uber, hashtag delete Uber with hashtag paydriversfare movement? I think this would be better than drivers trying to go on strike. Now, I had someone say, you know, what if we do like an Occupy Market Street? And look, I want to be upfront and very clear about this. I'm not trying to incite a strike. I'm nothing like that. Trying to read through some of your comments here. Passengers need to act as well. Yeah, I agree. This needs to be a collaboration between drivers and passengers. And, I don't know. I don't even know if that's something that's feasible. But passengers actually, I know a lot of you probably think passengers care less about the drivers, but because striking doesn't work. Striking just doesn't work. I do believe that a lot of passengers don't realize how underpaid drivers are. I think that's the real issue. Yeah, passengers need to be educated better. That's there's a few steps that I've come up with already. All right, and this is one thing that I really hate. I hate regulation. With every bone in my body, I hate regulation. But in the case of Uber, they have to be regulated. And unfortunately, this isn't something that the federal government is going to step in and oversee the whole thing. Every state has their own way of regulating the transportation network companies. So this is something you're going to have to demand, literally, write letters, call your local legislators, and demand they regulate, at a minimum, driver pay. Yeah, exactly. 2020 Tesla. Why should Uber pay more? They have plenty of drivers. That's true. Uber's not going to change on their own. They won't. Uber will not change on their own. So we need to focus on trying to get legislation passed in each state that will regulate, at a minimum, Uber pay. Drivers have to be paid X amount of dollars, because if not, there's too many markets. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of markets where drivers are making a ton of money. Dark Road Run, $5. Uber needs a cleaning fee for the mess they made with this company. I am not going to argue with that. Thank you for the super chat, Dark Road. Reading some of the comments here. Well, there are several markets out there where drivers are saying, they're making a killing. They're doing great. And I'm happy for those drivers, absolutely. But at least on my channel, I hear a lot more often that drivers are not making money, that a lot of drivers are losing money. I mean, I've seen news broadcasts of drivers living in their cars just trying to make ends meet. And disagree. Last thing anybody needs is more government regulation. That's where I stand usually. MPH. That's normally where I stand, is less regulation. The problem is, this is about as little regulation as you're ever going to get right here, right now. And this is what happens. Uber is just running amok, doing whatever they want, changing the rates whenever they want, changing the terms of service whenever they want. And guess what? They change the terms of service so that they can take more money, pay you less. They tell you about it, and there's nothing you can do about it, because if you don't push that accept button, you don't accept the new terms of service, you don't get to go to work. So I am absolutely against regulation. But in this particular case, I don't see where there's a choice. If the government does not step in, if local legislators do not step in and force Uber and Lyft's hands, this is not going to get better. It's not. So here's the thing. Media, news outlets. This is something you need to get the media's attention. That would be great. That would be a huge help. It's not absolutely necessary or mandatory, but it would really help. Next is I would recommend doing Facebook ad campaigns. And I'm talking about putting some real money behind it. Now, I don't have the kind of money to put behind something like that. I'm talking about thousands of dollars spent on Facebook advertisements. Short videos. Something like, get 10 drivers together to do something like a 10-minute piece or 10-second piece each, explaining why drivers need to be paid more, explaining why drivers are not being paid fairly, not being compensated fairly. Something short that we can promote on Facebook through ad campaigns and targeting. I think that would be a big help to really spread this around. Obviously, hashtag the hell out of hashtag paydriversfare, F-A-R-E. And, I think the best way of promoting this is by talking to your passengers. I really think that's the easiest way to spread the word. Now, in a lot of cases, you're right, passengers aren't going to care. But I believe there's a lot of good people out there, even the passengers. And passengers honestly have more power than we do. Now, between Facebook ad campaigns, talking to your passengers, hopefully getting some media exposure, unfortunately, legislation, I think, is really the only way of doing this. Now, there's been a lot of people talking about maybe we could get a union together. And I'm usually not for unions either, but I think in this case, something drastic needs to happen. Either we need a union or we need to get the government to, and I understand each state is different, all right? I'm not talking about federal government to make one law for all rideshare companies, but everybody needs to be trying to get in touch with their local legislature. I can't speak today. With their local legislators to pass something that can help maintain drivers' pay so that Uber cannot come in and charge. I have seen so many times lately. Hold on, let me get a drink. I have seen so many times lately where people are sending me screenshots. And what I see is Uber taking 50% of the fare. 50%. And here's the interesting thing. Uber built an app. Now, granted, they have a lot of overhead. They have a lot of employees. No doubt they have server costs. There's a lot of money that goes into Uber. They do a lot of subsidizing, which I think is kind of ridiculous, especially now that Uber is this well known. But the thing is, Uber is an app. That's it. It's an app. The drivers are the ones providing the majority of the equipment and bearing the majority of the expense. Uber doesn't pay for cars or for maintenance. So why is it Uber is taking, in many cases, 50% of the profit? Why is it they increase the booking fee and drivers don't get any of that? Why is it that they're now increasing the rate per mile per minute and the minimum fare, but they're not passing any of that on to drivers? I should be reading some of your comments here. Yeah, I know. Union, they have drivers listed as independent contractors. I understand that. And I do understand that you really can't unionize independent contractors. It doesn't work that way. But if it could be done, and just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean it's not possible. This is a new industry. This is a new world that we're in right now. There needs to be change. And change is painful. Reading through some of these comments real quick. So, I don't really like hearing that it can't be done. Because if you go back 10 years and tell people, hey, you're going to have a smartphone that has the computing power of TK. I got to keep allowing yours, man. If you go back 10 years and tell people that you're going to have in one device that you can fit in the palm of your hand more computing power than the world's best, fastest, most powerful supercomputer, people would have laughed at you. If you had told people that in the palm of your hand you can push a button and have a car show up at your door without talking to anybody, they would have laughed at you. If you had told people that you would have flat screen TVs that are literally the thickness of a sheet of paper that can hang on your wall, they would have laughed at you. So I don't like hearing that things are impossible. 10, 20, 30 years ago, almost everything we do and have today was impossible. So nothing's impossible if you put your mind to it. So I don't want to hear that. Here's the thing, it can be done. But I don't know if it can be done before Uber's already done all the damage that there is to be done. Point missiles at Uber. Oh, yeah. Well, that's one idea. I'm trying to stick to things that are a little more realistic. TK says he's got 8,500. A Facebook ad campaign I think would be a great way to get started. Something needs to be done. How about an Occupy Market Street? You want publicity? Go park your car. I mean, okay, I'm not telling you to do this. I want to make that very clear. This is just an idea. This is a brainstorm, okay? If it were legal, and I don't know that it is, so I wouldn't recommend doing it, but if it were legal, maybe a bunch of drivers in San Francisco and New York City need to just literally take their cars and just go park and stay outside of the Uber New York City branch and the San Francisco office on Market Street. How about that? I'll bet within a short amount of time that will get media attention. And then drivers can explain why they're upset. I don't know what the rates are in your market. Rates in my market are 60 cents a mile. That's a little on the ridiculous side. People ask me all the time, why don't you drive anymore? For 60 cents a mile? I make more doing one live stream than I would spend a whole night in my car driving around for 60 cents a mile. Come on now. Okay, 2020 Tesla says not park, but, maybe drivers circling Uber headquarters. Something needs to be done to get their attention. All right, and I'm not sitting here trying to act like I have all the answers. I've just got some ideas. That's why I think it's a good thing for drivers to all get together in one place, even if it is online, like right here in the chat room. Drivers get together, talk amongst each other, brainstorm together. Yeah, a web series, TK, that's good. And I know a lot of, excuse me, I know a lot of people love Lyft, especially right now. But it's my opinion that Lyft is ever so slightly better than Uber. Now, what I think could really change things here is now that Uber has done this and really pissed off a lot of drivers, what if Lyft were to just increase driver pay just a hair? If Lyft, anybody from Lyft listening, pay attention here. If Lyft were to just ever so slightly increase driver earnings, maybe give a couple percent back, maybe a few pennies per ride, it wouldn't take much, just a little bit. Show that Uber's taking more money and screwing drivers while Lyft is giving money back. Bingo, Lyft could take over. There's so many ways of doing things here, guys. Hold on, let me, someone just said screw Lyft. Hey, you know what? Uber and Lyft is where it's at. These are the two companies. Like, that's really it, at least right now. Via just did it in New York City. Even if Lyft was less, why not push the business that way? Lyft may win in the long run. Or Lyft and Uber may just fall out. Maybe Google will take over. Who knows? The thing is, back in the day, I probably would have said a strike is a great idea. I just don't see it. I don't. A strike has been tried time and time again, and every time it's the same thing. Drivers they're not organized. Drivers will not organize enough to successfully complete a strike, something on a large scale that would get their attention. It just doesn't work. I'm not saying it can't work, but if the past is any indication of the future here, it doesn't look good. Yeah. Protesting is good, so long as you make sure, I know that different places have different rules and regulations, but, if you're going to protest, make sure you got a permit, right? You need a permit to protest or you're breaking the law. America these days, right? A permit to protest. Yeah, look, TK, you cracked me up, man. Yeah, the best thing a driver can have is a backup plan. The truth is, I don't see this getting any better, and it's sad. Sad times. I've always loved Uber. Uber changed my life. I've never hid that. Always been thankful to Uber for the opportunities that I've had. Look at other comments. I'm trying, man, but there's so many comments flying through here. Uberman Tampa, they won't organize because they can't afford to, and that's true. How they came up with the rates, I couldn't tell you. Protesting is a waste of time. Google could take over. They really could. Strike, nobody cares. Yeah, that's the thing. I just don't see striking as a feasible option. I agree. Luxury card store. I agree. If Lyft could just increase. Lyft is already taking over market share, and they're growing rapidly. They really are. Uber needs to be watching out for that. And I think Uber's gotten a little cocky. They've gotten a little arrogant, and they've gotten greedy. Uber's still not profitable, but Lyft could take over. And truthfully, drivers have the power to sway it that way. Stop driving for Uber. Just stop. Send messages to Lyft. Tell Lyft, hey, you could really win this thing by just giving drivers a little more money. Take just a ever so slightly smaller percentage. Maybe that's not an option. Maybe raise rates just a little bit. Uber's already doing it. Why not raise rates like Uber is, but give a portion of that back to the drivers? That's all they got to do. Just show that they're willing to share the profits with drivers while Uber is being greedy and taking it all, and this could change the game forever. Forget about Uber. Copart Man is here. Well, right now I'm Uber Man. Greg says Maestro should help. I'm not going to get Maestro involved in this. This has nothing to do with them. They're not in the middle of this. This is no. 65 cents a mile. That's crazy how much of a difference there is, Uberman Tampa, between those markets. Crazy. We're at 60 cents a mile here. Yeah, the best strike is to stop driving for them. That's the easiest thing to do, to be honest with you. Without Facebook advertisements, without occupying Market Street or any of that stuff, just stop driving. Turn off the apps. The problem is it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. People won't do it. And there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck in this loop, and I talked about it in another video before. They can't stop driving. They have become so dependent upon Uber and Lyft that they cannot stop driving. And Uber and Lyft rely on that. They rely on that. Jose says, you don't drive, so why do you care about drivers and what Uber is doing if you don't drive anymore? How about because I was a driver for years? I've been in this game since the very beginning, at least in my market. I've driven in multiple markets, and I've made really good friends with a lot of drivers. My livelihood at one point depended upon Uber. So this is personal for me. I understand what it's like to depend on Uber for money. And I couldn't imagine right now, if I was 4 years ago in a situation where my livelihood depended on this for 60 cents a mile. Okay? I came from nothing. I came from the bottom, so I know what it's like to struggle. That's why I care. Too bad Roadrunner service never made it. Yeah. Yeah, the best thing anyone could do is just turn off Uber. Turn off Uber, spread the word, what Uber is doing to drivers, to passengers. The message needs to get out there. It does. Hashtag paydriversfare. F-A-R-E. It just needs to be spread. People need to understand what's happening. People need to understand that in a lot of cases, drivers are losing money and they don't realize it until an unexpected expense comes up and they can't afford it, and then they're out of a job and they're out of a car. Now, is that Uber's fault? No, it's not Uber's fault that a lot of drivers don't understand this business. But it's not right that those drivers are being exploited like this either. Uberman Tampa says, my life depends on Uber. I'm in the struggle. You don't know people's situation. I don't know if you're talking to me or not, but I hope not, because Believe me, I know about struggle. All right. Got a little choppy. Sorry about that. Thank you, Wade. Kevin, not Uber's fault. I mean, I do agree. I do agree it's not Uber's fault. But what is Uber's fault is bait and switch. Telling people you can make this much money, getting a bunch of people excited and signed up to drive for your company, building a multi-billion-dollar company on the backs of those people, and then turning around and pulling the rug out from under them and taking all of the money away and leaving them sitting there wondering what just happened. Yeah, partners. Okay. All right, Uberman Tampa, got you. Yeah, a lot of people do say get a real job. And what is a real job? You know, what? Somebody please tell me, what is a real job? Do you guys realize there's no such thing as job security anymore? I don't care where you work. There's no job security. Businesses close down out of the blue. Boom. You could work somewhere 10 years and find out one day all that work was for nothing. At least doing something like this, it's on your terms. Well, it's supposed to be on your terms, right? A real job. People tell me all the time, why do YouTube get a real job? It's like, you realize YouTube pays me more than any job I've ever had? I'd say that's a real job, all right? Job security is when you're dead. Yeah. Oh, Jose was just asking a question. You know, it's difficult to tell through a text whether somebody is being, legit or being an asshole. So forgive me if I get a little offended, but you know, to ask me why I care about drivers when I don't drive anymore, that did seem to me, it felt a little bit offensive. So I apologize if I took it the wrong way. But it's like Uber used to be my life, and it's difficult because I know what it's like to depend on this for income. All right. Flipping cars in YouTube. What can you wish for, damn people? Flipping cars in YouTube. What can you wish for, damn people? I don't know. Tennessee Adventures, thank you. Got a paper in the mail about a lawsuit involving Uber. Yeah, I got that same paper. I don't know why Uber is closing accounts for no reason. I really don't. Yeah, I used to drive for Uber, obviously, and I started finding other things to do when the rates went down. I drove regularly for Uber until the rates dropped to $1. Once they started falling below $1 a mile, you watch me fall further and further back. Why? It's not worth it. When I started, rates were $2.50 a mile. $2.50 with surge pricing. And now there's hardly any surge left. And you've got upfront pricing, and they're charging riders more. I mean, it's gotten out of control. Yeah, I agree, Total Tech. TK, they don't want the old drivers around to tell new drivers how bad it is. Too many people get out there and they think because they made a few $100 in a few days that they just made a lot of money. And they forgot to count how many miles they drove, how much gas they put in the car. Uber relies on people like this. Uber, B mode 32, 30 cents a mile coming soon. They did that already. They did that in Detroit, and they still had drivers driving. That's the thing. They've already tested how far they can push it. Now, I was really hopeful that with this 180 days of change and a new CEO that things were really going to look up for drivers. But, they just pulled the rug out from under themselves, not just us. They did this whole PR campaign telling everybody, drivers, the general public, passengers, what they were doing to make things better for drivers. And then they come in and they say, hey, by the way, drivers, we're going to charge passengers more, but don't worry, it's not going to affect your pay. That was ballsy. That was a ballsy move. TK just did videos, drove all week in New York City, made $982, 46 hours. Okay, I don't know the New York City market, obviously, but TK, that sounds really low to me. For New York City, a 50-hour week, $982, that sounds horrible. I love Express Pool, right? Sold out to, I was told, sold out to Uber. I have no idea. Yeah, down the drain with 180 days of change. Basically, the 180 days of change initiative just got flushed down the toilet. You know, by looking at drivers and saying, hey, basically, screw you, shot themselves in the foot, man. Luxury card store, thank you. Yeah, just because I am attached to this industry and probably always will be, whether I drive or not. You know, I have a love for the industry and for the people that are still in it and that are still struggling. And right now, the people that are actually suffering. And I don't hold Uber fully to blame, but Uber pulled a bait and switch. They did that. Unfortunately, a lot of drivers just don't understand the cost of this business. They're not business-oriented people. They don't have a mindset for business. That's not Uber's fault. But what Uber's doing is wrong. Continuously taking more and more money from passengers is wrong. And telling drivers, don't worry, you're not going to make anything more, is wrong. Upfront pricing is wrong. You know, when I'm seeing drivers show that they got paid $22 and a passenger got charged $46, this is not okay. You know, taking your 20%, 25% plus a booking fee, that was enough. Now you're taking sometimes even more than what the driver makes. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Okay, shout out to Sam Crack. Yeah. You know, Sharper Travel says he can do $3,000 a month on Select in Orlando, and that's awesome. You know, I'm not saying that all markets are bad, that all markets are markets you can't make money in. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are too many markets and too many people now that are... How about them legs, right? That was an unexpected surprise. I'm distracted, man. I looked at the screen. I see these hot legs walking by, and it's like, wow. Yeah, your wife photobomb. Yep. Well, what was I saying? That's why I love these live streams. You just can't predict what's going to happen in here, and I can't edit the screw-ups. All right, so... Yeah, that's Uber woman. See? All right. So I'm not saying that you can't make money driving for Uber. I'm not saying that there are not a lot of markets where people do well. But I am saying that I believe upfront pricing is wrong. They're taking too much from the passenger and they're not giving it to the driver. I understand Uber. Yeah, Uber dog. I understand Uber has to become profitable. If not, they tank. But you can't just keep taking more and more from the passenger and throwing scraps at the drivers and expect to survive. Drivers are the lifeblood. Drivers and passengers. I think too many people get confused about this. They think drivers are the lifeblood, but it's not just the drivers. There's more passengers than there are drivers. Okay, passengers and drivers combined are the lifeblood of the company. Without either of those, Uber tanks. You piss off passengers, and this is the thing. Uber has really screwed up here. Uber is taking more money from passengers, and a lot of passengers don't even realize it. They don't. If more people would spread the message, hashtag paydriversfare, right? if more drivers would spread the word to the passengers and say, look how much you're paying. Passengers think they're getting a great deal. And then turn your phone and say, this is how much they're paying me. And passengers are going to be like, wait a minute. They're paying you $20 and I just paid $46? Now that's when passengers are going to get pissed. Because now passengers feel like they're getting shafted. Get passengers pissed. Drivers are pissed. Get passengers pissed. You get drivers and passengers pissed, Uber's going to be in big trouble. Yes, fare, F-A-R-E though. Hashtag pay drivers, F-A-R-E, fare, like a cab fare. I charge for using my traction control now. You almost have to. Josh, good night. $3 water bottles. There you go. SoftBank asked for this move in last board meeting on rates. We should boycott Sprint as well. I did not know that. This is something that SoftBank wanted, huh? Very interesting. Autonomous cars. Yeah, I know. Uber is losing money. Yeah, Uber they keep getting financial backing, but they're also hemorrhaging money like no other. Get the legs back. I don't know where they went. I need to go find them soon, so I'm going to be jumping off of here. Gotta go jump somewhere else. No, I'm not going to become a taxi driver. They're beyond getting greedy. They've surpassed greedy, and that is going to be their downfall. I'm relaying this as a test. How do you feel about that Uber interview now? Francisco, that's a fair question, and not one that I think anybody has just thrown out there publicly before like that, especially on a live stream. How do I feel about my interview with Uber? I was probably more excited about that interview than just about anything else I have done in a long time. That 4-part series of 180 Days of Change. And I want to make it, very clear that by the time I was done, with new equipment and stuff that I needed to do this interview, I can't say how much I got paid, but I made it a point not to make a profit on this because I did not want this to be something that I came up off of. That was not the point of the video. They did not pay me much, and with what I spent on video equipment, it was about even. So I've heard other people on YouTube say that they got paid a fat sack of money, and I don't blame anybody for that. I probably could have gotten them to pay me a lot more too. But number one, I don't need the money, and I'm sure the other people didn't need the money either. I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying I didn't need the money. This was not about me getting a payday. I was excited not for the money, but for the opportunity to actually sit down in Uber's corporate office with a high-level executive. And unfortunately, it was really strict on being about 180 days of change. I had so many other things I wanted to talk about, things that I was able to talk about with Aaron Schilkraut. I learned a lot. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to share any of it. So how do I feel about it now? The interview was great. Touring the facility was great. Aaron was a great guy. He was the type of guy that if I had a question about anything, he was open, told me whatever. Even when, some things were probably things he wasn't supposed to talk to me about. So I think Aaron was a great guy. He was an open book when it came to Uber, and I thought that was awesome. Gus, thank you for the super chat, Gus. I'm taking a moment, not really reading because I want to talk about this 180 Days of Change real quick. because that was a really good question. And sometimes it's kind of cool to call me out like that publicly on a live stream. You know, there's no time for me to sit here and come up with a script. I was so nervous and so excited about that interview because that's the biggest interview I've ever done. You know, that's like, I've seen Aaron Shilkart. I've seen this guy on the news. He's been interviewed by some large networks. And here I am, this little YouTube channel, and I'm sitting down with a guy that's been published all over the world, a guy that has created companies and made millions of dollars, and I get to sit down with him. So I was beyond excited about this. This was like the biggest break of my life. Reading some comments here. All right, anyway, so it was a great opportunity. And I'm still thankful for the interview. So the question was, how do I feel about that interview today? I'm still glad I did it. You know, it was a lot of fun. Looking back, now that they did this, you know, the whole thing of taking money away from, charging passengers more but not sharing any of it with the drivers and then telling drivers that they're doing it. Okay, so maybe the interview would have been better if it was about anything other than 180 days of change. Reading some more comments. That was a good question. I appreciate that one. I wish the subject matter could have been about something else. I really wanted to believe that 180 Days of Change was truly going to benefit drivers. And I now I can see that that's just not the case. So it sucks but I wouldn't change it. It was a great interview. I had a great time meeting Aaron and interacting with him and talking with him. So I still appreciate the opportunity to do that. What we got going on here? When you guys cuss, I have to manually approve it. Sharper Travel, what if Uber asked you to work for them? That would be a very delicate negotiation, because I cannot work for them and screw drivers over at the same time when it's always been drivers that have given me the opportunities that I have today. See, it's very simple. What I do today, the success that I have today, and I'm not talking about success as in I'm a millionaire type thing, but my success is being able to do what I love for a living, live relatively comfortably, and interact with my audience. This is what I love doing. And to be able to make a living doing what I love, this is a gift that was given to me by the people that are subscribed to my channel. So by you guys, you know. So could I take a job at Uber and screw over the people that gave me the opportunities that led me to being able to get that job? Not a chance. And I would hope that the majority of you that have followed me, watched me for any reasonable amount of time, know me well enough to know that I'm a transparent person. I'm very honest, almost to a fault. And I couldn't screw over the people that gave me the opportunities that I have today. Wouldn't happen. It would be a very delicate negotiation process before I could take a job at Uber. Now, if I felt like I could get a job within Uber and make a difference to benefit drivers, sure. If it was, something where I didn't have to pack up and move to another country or something, yeah, absolutely would. TK, I'll get in touch with you a little later. I'm about to get off here, and I need to go hang out with my fiance because she's bored, and we're supposed to hang out tonight. So this live stream's already lasted longer than I would have liked it to, and if it goes on too long, I won't be able to get anybody to watch it after the live stream. So yeah, my fear is that eventually Lyft is going to start doing the same thing, but if Lyft is smart, they're not going to follow in Uber's footsteps. This is a turning point here, a pivotal moment where Uber screwed up, pissed off drivers, and Lyft, are you listening? Lyft could use this as an opportunity to take drivers away from Uber right now. This is the time. How do you feel about Dara calling out Donald Trump? No idea. I don't know anything about Dara calling out Donald Trump. Not a clue. Can we continue to live stream without you? No. It's not. That's not going to work. When I get off, I gotta, shut this down. Yeah, there's actually quite a few people watching. 170. For my little channel, it's a pretty big deal. Time to move to San Francisco for work. I don't think... I didn't care for San Francisco all that much, to be honest with you. I'm an Okie from Muskogee. All right? San Francisco's a little much for me. Jose, get at me, Randy. We need to talk. Look, if there's anybody... Uberman Tampa just saw that super chat. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I know it's a struggle out there. If anybody needs to get at me about business or regarding, ways to make change, things of that nature, TK, you've got my information already. Total Tech, great channel. Check him out. A lot of tech reviews. TK is the real deal. This is a guy that's got some money behind him, that he busted his ass for. But if you got anything you need to talk about, business related or related to whatever we're talking about here, hit me up, Uberman YouTube at cox.net. No, I don't need to hear the jokes about Cox. All right? Uberman YouTube at cox.net. Send me an email. Do my best to get back at you as soon as I can. Keep in mind, I'm swamped. I got a lot of work going on right now. Atlanta drivers driving for free. Yeah, that's the thing. That's a theme that I'm seeing in a lot of places. And I think I'd like to... TK, I'd like to talk to you about something else too. I would like to do a survey. Oh yeah, I get a lot of trolls for sure. Do I think Uber will raise the pay for drivers? I can't say too much on that, but I have it on good authority that Uber will not raise the pay for drivers, period. So let's just leave it at that. Okay. Yeah, I'll type it out real quick, but when I type, it goes through the mic. So... Okay, so I would like to maybe do a survey. I don't know if it's necessary, but I think it'd be really cool to do a survey similar to the thing that MIT did, similar to the thing that Harry Campbell did. I would find it very interesting to do a survey about a basic survey, nothing too complex, but basically how many hours do you work for Lyft? How much do you make for those hours before expenses working for Lyft, and then Uber. How many hours do you work on Uber per week? How much do you make per week driving for Uber? And kind of get an average, come up with an idea of what drivers are getting paid, how long they're working to make that pay, and then we can kind of try to figure out what expenses would be. I think it'd be interesting to see what the results of something like that would be, and I'm talking thousands of drivers, not just 1,200 or some, thousands of drivers. I think that would give us some really interesting results. I'm very curious to see what the results would be. Hey, Uberman, what's your cell number? Yeah, that's not happening. Paydriversfare, there you go. Yeah, well, Can you make headrest signs? Probably. I mean, that's possible. I don't know. Like, I'm already swamped with work. A lot of stuff. These flipping cars. I'm like, what did I put out? 5 videos yesterday? You know how long it takes to edit and produce 5 videos? What are you smoking? This. Don't vape, man. It's not good. You want to know what's not good? What's not good is cigarettes. And I'm coming off of cigarettes about 2 months now. I started vaping with this, and that thing, the lid keeps popping open in my pocket like this and dumping the juice out. So I said I need something else. I went back to the vape store and I got this one. Is vaping good? Probably not. Inhaling some weird substance into your lungs is probably a bad idea. But at the end of the day, this beats the hell out of cigarettes. So thanks to vaping, I haven't had a cigarette in 2 months. Yeah, I've slowed down on the rideshare industry because it's depressing. And when my job becomes something that is depressing, I need to change it up. I'm not going to let fluid in your lungs. Well, I think I blow out most of the fluid. Yeah, I agree. Much safer. All right, guys, I'm going to get off of here. I'm going to go hang out with my fiance, listen to some music, maybe have a drink or two with her. Don't eat that chicken, babe. That stuff is nasty. I mean, the last batch of orange chicken was great, but that chicken it's disgusting. I mean, I don't even know if I'd feed it to the dog. The macaroni's good, but the chicken tastes like shit. Sorry, guys. Sidetracked. Babe, what's that phone number? 3675309. The song. People are asking for my phone number. 5675309. 5675309. 867. 8675309. That's my number. Hit me up. 8675309. There you go. I got like 100 people throwing that in there. Do you smoke weed? I do not. I do not. Not going to say I haven't. I mean, I used to, but not anymore. If it was legal, I never inhaled. If it was legal, I would. Absolutely. But, you know, with kids in the house and business and all this other stuff, I can't afford to be, you know, doing anything illegal or things like that. Can you do smoke rings? No. Nope. What I can do is just puff on this and not smoke cigarettes. All right, guys. Hashtag paydriversfare. See if we can do something with that. Jose, your best bet is to send me an email. Okay? UbermanYouTube at cox.net. I'd rather do that than phone calls and stuff at the moment. And right now I'm getting off of here to go hang out with my fiance, so can't be doing phone calls right now. You know, spend time with the family. I know it's late. It's late as hell. What is it, like 12:30 in the morning? So I do need to get out of here. I appreciate y'all joining, though. Like I said, UbermanYouTube at cox.net. If you need to get a hold of me, I'll do my best to get in touch with you as soon as I can. But keep in mind, you know, I am swamped at the moment, so take a while. But I will get back to you. All right, guys, I'm out of here. You know, as always, please like the video if you can. If you're watching this after live stream, like the video. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. And let's see what we can do in the future. See you in the next one, guys. You want to know something funny? It's my first time using this Streamables OBS, and I can't find the button to stop the stream. Lord have mercy. Sorry you had to walk through. Everybody loved you walking through. Why don't you walk through again before I figure out how to end the stream? I can't turn it off. Jose said you can't turn it off. That's a problem with me. It's hard to turn it off. Ain't that right, babe? There we go. No, it's not done. I just found the button. All right, now I'm out of here, guys. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.